we've talked about Russia and Ukraine on this program before. Uh, I don't think we need to delve into all aspects of that again, although obviously we have the situation in Crimea. Now there's Russian people occupying government buildings in the east of Ukraine. Russian troops, obviously, at the border. That situation is still very much alive and very precarious. And, just the other day, there was a great piece in Al Jazeera outlining why the European Union and why the West and why the global financial institutions undermine consistently the possibility of progress in a place like Ukraine and empower what in this case I think is undeniably a reckless Russian foreign policy. But let's get to this. So right now, Ukraine, is contemplating a brutal austerity package designed by the IMF. Okay, so this is a little over a month after this change in government, after all the disruption, massive protests, violence, forming a new government, Russia's in Crimea, instability all around. And the IMF comes forward and with the endorsement of Ukraine's prime minister with a austerity package that would do things including end gas subsidies, freeze the minimum wage, and other measures that would contract the economy and lower living standards for Ukrainians. Now, this is on top of the IMF acknowledging themselves at certain points that these packages have not worked in the past in places like Argentina. This formula of endless contraction, endless austerity, they want to implement at a government that may not survive for another couple of weeks. We know that the far right is a danger in Ukraine. And I know that real left and liberals and people who wanted to actually deal with the oligarchy and introduce democratic accountability were essential to what, again, was a legitimate uprising. This is from the article. Kiev, capital of Ukraine, and the IMF have, quote, this is from Mitchell Ornstein, who's the chair of political science at Northeastern University. Kiev and the IMF have basically misdiagnosed the problem of Ukraine. They're aware it's a heavily politicized situation, but they're not taking it that seriously. They're not playing politics the way it should be played, and frankly, it's stupid. And it's not just stupid because of the politics, it's stupid because austerity is horrible policy. You're taking a people into a political transition and immediately punishing them and lowering their living standards. Now, this is nothing new. After the ANC liberated South Africa, global institutions came to South Africa and they said, look, here's your macroeconomic policy or we're gone. So there was a political liberation, followed by neoliberal policies, which is directly related to the fact that there's an AIDS crisis in South Africa, that closing the gaps in wealth, housing, education, healthcare, unemployment, persistent poverty have not been closed. So let me just read a few more quotes from this article. This is Mikkel Korkenkim, founder of the East European Gas and Analysis. I don't think the IMF should have insisted on an immediate rise in the residential price of natural gas in the first place. The situation in Ukraine is very unstable, and there's no need to stabilize it more by making unpopular decisions. In addition to a gas hike and minimum wage freeze, Ukraine has agreed to raise taxes on the country's largest businesses. That could be a good thing. Crack down on corruption and close loopholes that allow government officials to hand out government contracts that are cronies. But you know that those steps are the ones that can be much more easily evaded and padded. The cuts in wages and the cuts in fuel subsidies are what's going to come through. And this was the debate about, this is why people wanted to join the EU, because of the anti-corruption measures and those things. But corruption persists. Austerity cuts through living standards right off the bat. And then from the geopolitical point, what's Russia doing in Crimea as the IMF is coming through at wage freezes, energy cuts, and pension cuts? The Russians are offering to raise people's pensions in Crimea. So we have another contrast here. And don't be under any delusions. Russia has mass wealth stratification too. But they see an opportunity and they're rightly seizing it. Say, which side do you want to be on? We'll increase your pensions. We'll increase your standard of living. Or go to the EU and fall in this austerity trap that you've been seeing eating away at Greece and the rest of the Eurozone. I mean, austerity is wrong morally, which we talk about. It's bad economics, and now it's a threat to European national security. It's an absolutely stunningly stupid package. And it will most likely get passed through.